Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. First, I would like to thank Fuzan Khan again for believing in me and inviting me here again to speak to you. So I'm honored. Thank you. For those of you who have been to RIS, and I've seen some of you on a regular basis, I wanted to change up not the topic, but just the way I'm doing my presentation, because it's about my dad, who still inspires me every single day. But I see a lot of young scholars and men and women in the audience, so I'd like to, throughout my presentation, take you in the world of my father and the decisions and the choices that he made throughout his life and the trials and tribulations that he went through, because you were too young to remember him. So I wanted to kind of take you through his choices and his journey. My father, who worked hard to win the gold in the 1960 Summer Olympics in Rome, he eventually earned respect from his peers and gratitude for the hard work that he finally did, making a choice and following through with those choices, not only to honor the commitment he made to himself, but also the commitment he made to his family and also his community. Throughout his career in the boxing ring and in life, he tried to continuously enlighten his Iman, building his foundation and making decisions based that Allah has given him, and making decisions based throughout his life on 6 core principles: confidence, conviction, giving, dedication, respect, and spirituality. Throughout my presentation, you're going to see these core principles in action as my dad is going through his life. These core principles, I believe, and his belief in Almighty God Allah, has made him the success that he still is today. People from all over the globe knew my father because he was a loudmouth, but he was the most famous human being in the world, and he was Muslim. Even before Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and Twitter, these are the mediums that we use to get our messages out fast. Of course, we're in the modern times. My dad didn't even need that. He traveled all over the world, but he had people tuned to the tune. So people, I know some of you guys remember watching Cassius Clay box, but for those of you who did not grow up during that time, I didn't even remember boxing at that time. But for those of you guys that didn't know what a boxing match was like, this is an example of how dynamic my dad was before the weigh-in of the Frazier fight. I just want to give you an example of why he was so resonated and revered, and people who didn't normally watch boxing would box because of this. Sound? Sound, please? You gotta hear his voice. It's hysterical. Okay, are we gonna do the video again?
He's ugly, he can't talk, he can't box, he can't dance, he can't do no shuffle, and he writes no poems.
No, he didn't mean all that stuff he said about Joe. He was trying to sell tickets, and he did. But why did he want all this attention? Why was he wanting people to watch him, besides trying to create fascination for the sport that didn't pay that well at the time? He told his brother, Rudy, to throw rocks at his head so that he can dodge the real boxers. But then he said, if I were ever to become famous in this sport, I would help my people with the gifts that God has given me. So even at a very young age, my dad was already kind of in tune to the larger picture. It's not just about, becoming rich and famous.